Welcome to Built to Finish. I'm your host, Stephen Pivnik. Join me each week as we explore the journeys of audacious goal setters. This includes experienced founders, CEOs, and entrepreneurs sharing pivotal moments that propel their success. We'll also be talking with endurance athletes who push the limits of physical and mental ability. This show is brought to you by Acresis, offering tailored, high-impact advisory services to help founders get to their finish line with a strategic acquisition or majority investor recapitalization. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of the Built to Finish podcast. Today's guest is a thought leader in sales strategy, financial intelligence, and client value creation. For over 20 years, he's been helping companies and sales professionals elevate the way they engage with buyers, shifting from the traditional product pitching to insight-led conversations that drive real business impact. Through his work, he's championed the importance of speaking the buyer's language, grounding sales in business, industry, and financial insights that connect solutions to outcomes in a meaningful way. Before launching his company, he was a professor of finance at Emory and Georgia State and an adjunct professor at Georgia Tech. He also serves on the boards of two organizations that support children and young adults with special needs. He is also a best-selling author of the book Insight-Led Selling. He is currently the founder and president of FinListics. Dr. Stephen Timme, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Stephen, and thanks all the Built to Finish fans out there for joining us today.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So you've had quite the journey from education into entrepreneurship. Can you start us off by telling us a little bit about how that transition occurred?
Yeah. And so in a previous life, as Stephen mentioned, I was a professor of finance at Emory University, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I loved being a professor, but I also did not want to take a vow of poverty. So I was very, very fortunate to be able to consult for a number of Fortune 500 companies. And I was typically, given my background, I was brought in by the finance group to work with people in operations because the thought process was the folks in operations really had a lot of the good ideas, right? But they just didn't know how to articulate the financial benefits. So I spent a lot of time, working with companies, a one paper company, if you could get 1% more yield off the paper machine, what would that be worth? And Stephen, just by pure luck, I was doing an open enrollment workshop at Georgia Tech here in Atlanta, where I live. And hope there's some Georgia Tech, grads out there. And anyway, so it was all about, improving operational performance and what was the financial impact. And what happened is one guy from a company, software company, came up to me and said, "Hey, have you ever applied this to sales? I mean, this is what we want to do, but we spend more time talking about features and functions versus business outcomes." So that's when I really made the transition over into the enterprise sales world. And then eventually left the university because the business was growing. And I actually, I had a responsibility to the university, but also to my company. And so I left in the 1990s and pivoted into enterprise sales.
That's quite the transition. So how did you go about building the first product? Did you have a technical background as well, or did you outsource the actual development of the solution you envisioned?
What happened was, so a company called S&P, they had a database. And so I had a subscription to the database. I was creating this stuff in Excel. Stephen, on a weekly basis, you would get a CD, you had to put it into your reader. And so I was making these linkages, and they reached out to me and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, here's how I'm using this." And they said, "Well, we'd like to maybe partner with you." So actually partnered with S&P, a couple of guys there that I was working with, Steve Bellmere and Scott Hamilton. They were engineers for S&P. So they actually helped bulletproof this. Eventually we split ways with S&P, but Steve and Scott, they wanted to leave. So we came up with this revenue sharing agreement that you guys do all the tech stuff. I'll do the sales, I'll do the product creation, those type of things. And it was a great relationship for, many, many years. And then in 2018, they had another company that got bought. They were told, "Hey, you've got to split off from FinListics." And that's when I started bringing on my own IT people, outsourcing IT, et cetera, et cetera. So my background is not technology, although the vast majority of our clients are in the enterprise technology sales space.
Understood. Understood. So speaking about the actual idea that launched this business and later your book, why do you think insights resonate better with today's buyers versus the traditional feature function benefits like you mentioned earlier?
Well, they got to get things done. I mean, they've announced, like for example, this one consumer products company that is one of our clients, they've announced to Wall Street, hey, we're going to take out $300 million in cost. We're going to put that money back into product development, and we're going to do all this in, I think it's 3 years. So, I mean, and then people give forecasts. Hey, we're going to improve, like the one company, manufacturing company that I know, they said, okay, we're going to improve our gross profit margin from around 30% to over 39%. So, I mean, they're making commitments to investors, and investors expect you to keep those commitments. In fact, the reality is investors expect you to deliver more than those commitments. So now buying executives are under tremendous pressure to deliver business results. And, if your features and functions can get you there, that's great, except they don't, except for maybe the CIO. I mean, if you're talking to marketing, you're talking to production, you're talking to us finance folks, we could care less how you get it. Just make sure you get it there on time, and it's, very, very stable. So, yeah, I mean, nowadays they tell me about my business. In fact, in the book, there's 3 takeaways. And what's unique about the book, Stephen, is that I interviewed about a dozen executives from Coca-Cola, Procter and Gamble, AT&T, and some of the takeaways, 3 of the key takeaways is, 1, tell me something I don't know. And even if this company's got tons of money, tons of consultants, they're still saying, hey, you see a lot of things in the industry I don't. Tell me something I don't know. Doesn't have to be confidential. Tell me something I don't know. The second thing was, show me the business and financial benefits of your solutions. Features and functions, I don't care about those. How's it going to deliver business outcomes around, business benefits, financial benefits? And the third thing, Stephen, which I found really interesting was, hey, make my life easier. And Steve Clancy, he was the CIO of Georgia Pacific at the time. He's one of the people that said that. I said, Steve, what do you mean? Like, you want him to come over and wash your car? What do you mean by make my life easier? He goes, no, no, no. He goes, too many sales folks have got great ideas. They got great products, but they're showing me this 20-slide PowerPoint presentation. And his point was, well, I have to socialize this, within his company, Georgia Pacific. I need a one-pager. Don't make me do your job and boil all this down to a one-pager. You give me the one-pager so I can go socialize this. Those are the 3 things. Tell me something I don't know. What are the business and financial benefits? And make my life easier.
Those are great practical applications of your obviously your product, your company, and the book. So that's fantastic recommendations for salespeople out there that are listening. When does somebody decide, from a sales perspective, let's say somebody adopts this methodology, there still needs to be a point in time where the feature function conversation is had? Or are you suggesting that there's opportunities where you can avoid the feature function conversation completely if you truly focus on the business outcome?
Yeah, you always have to talk about that when you talk about technical readiness, but it's not with the CFO. It's not with the chief marketing officer. It's not with the person running distribution and logistics. It's for like, hey, sell me on the idea. And then we've got a group of people, in the tech, function that was, okay, here's how it's going to integrate. Are we ready for this? Here's how, maps to other technologies we've got. Sure, you have to have that discussion, but the way I think about it, you have to earn the right to have that discussion. And to do that, you've got to convince me, hey, this thing's going to really deliver something that we don't have right now. And it's going to be faster than some of your competitors. You've got more experience in your competitors. So it's going to be at lower risk. So yeah, you have to have that tech discussion, but that's down the road, not up front, which a lot of people, we do surveys all the time. And the latest survey showed that around 25% of sales organizations are really good at understanding the client's goals and strategies and align it with their solutions and then talking about business and financial benefits. The other almost 70% either say they're working on it, which means they're not,
Right.
or they say we still lead with features and functions, which again, I mean, I don't see how people sell like that. I don't get it unless the buyer's already decided, hey, here's what we're going to buy. You just tell us how your technology is going to fit in with what we've got. But it's confusing to me that people still lead with features and functions.
Yeah, I think it's a cultural thing. Like if I look back at my company, I was highly technical, right? So when your background is highly technical, you tend to, you lean on what you know, which in my case was technology. And that's especially in the early years, that's kind of the culture that was developed in my company where we led with features and functions because we felt that our features and functions were superior to our competitors. It wasn't until we got a little bit more sophisticated from a selling perspective that I think we just subconsciously started to lead with, "Hey, we will ensure project success, and we're gonna make sure that this project runs as smoothly as possible." And then we threw in all the features and functions if needed. So I think a lot of it is based on how the sales leader or the company leader where his or her knowledge lays.
Yeah, and I had a similar journey, being a finance type, right? I mean, we've got data for over 60,000 companies worldwide, and we've got industry data for over 500 companies, and we have operational KPIs, for 20 different industries. And then it's like, wait, you eat your own dog food, dude. I mean, wait, you're just talking about your features and functions. You created it. You're very proud of it. But what the VP of sales or the chief revenue officer wants to know is, so how's that going to help me increase deal size? How's that going to help me shorten the sales cycle? How that's going to help me increase closure rate? You got all this great data. Now, what's it going to do for me? So, yeah, I did a similar journey. I used to just lead with, oh, we got this and we got that. No one else has this. Oh, yeah. Do you want to know what the benefits are? Okay, I'll tell you.
So, can you give me a specific example of a company? Maybe you can leave out the name, just share the industry that really took this to heart and radically transformed the way they sell and the benefits that they saw.
Yeah, and again, we mainly sell into the tech space and then, system integrators for like, SAP, Oracle, Workday, et cetera. But one in fact, we're working with this company now, and so what they've got, basically, they go in and we sell SAP, or we'll help you implement SAP, and here's the benefits, et cetera, et cetera. But it was almost all the technological benefits. You can close your books 3 days faster. Okay, it wasn't like upgrading is going to help you reduce unplanned downtime, or upgrading is going to help you get product to market faster. And so they just weren't winning as many deals. Like, well, why? And they said, well, your competitors came in here and talked about business benefits. You guys spent most of your time talking about features and functions. And, we quite frankly, we think it's a tie. So we're going to go with the folks that are speaking more our language. So they're on a journey. They've made significant progress to say, okay, now when we go, we lead with, what are you trying to get accomplished? Right? If they're a public company, you go out there, they're trying to improve margins. They're trying to, expand their portfolio. They're trying to better manage expenses, whatever it might be. So they start off with, like, what is the client trying to get done? Let's not go in there and tell them how smart we are. And then they start thinking about, and they share with them, okay, well, I see you're trying to expand margins, and, here's how our offerings will help you expand margins. Oh, here's some case studies that back that up. They never initially, they do not get into, and here's how this upgrade is going to help everything be better. No, they just talk about, I mean, from a technology perspective, they talk about, what are you trying to get done? What's top of mind for you? And they have that research, right? Then they talk about the benefits of what they're offering. And then the key to this, Stephen, is now, I think Gartner says for these big digital transformations, there's 10 plus stakeholders.
Right.
So what this company's doing, and a lot of our clients have already done, is, if I'm talking to marketing, let's say they're a stakeholder, I want to talk about, campaign response rate, or for the same budget, here's, you can get this many more campaigns, out there because of the benefit of this technology. Or let's say it's an omni-channel example, right? I'm going to have marketing involved. I'm going to have distribution and logistics involved. I got merchandising involved. So each one of those groups are going to have different operational KPIs. So one size does not fit all. I mean, you just can't go and say, and here's how we're going to help you reduce costs. Well, to distribution and logistics, it's going to be, well, how are you going to help me reduce transportation cost, right? To procurement, it's going to be, well, how are you going to help me reduce materials costs? So what's happening with this organization? They're making great progress. Are they there yet? No. Are they really bent on getting there? Absolutely yes, because they want it to drive the top line. So the point being is that what is the customer trying to get done? How does your solution help? How do you tailor the message for each individual stakeholder? Because again, I don't, generic messages, one size does not fit all anymore. And then finally, okay, now show me the financial benefits. Let's collaborate and build a case together. So number of examples like that. But the key, Stephen, is always, 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 it's got to come from the top. Like any transformation, if you just have this one group, and we've seen this unfortunately many times, one group really gets it, but there's this big disconnect between, the chief revenue officer or chief strategy officer and learning and development and sales. I mean, it just doesn't work.
So to that point, how do you accurately measure success in this type of transformation from going from feature-led selling to insight-led programs? Is it basically just an increase in top line, or are there other KPIs that can be measured to see if this transformation is actually working?
Yeah, and so you bring up a really good point, and that's why I wrote this paper with Siobhan Thatcher, one of the leaders in learning and development. It was, I forget the exact title, like the 7 steps of creating a client or customer-driven revenue organization. And the number one thing is, what's your North Star? How
Hmm.
are you going to? How do you know if you're successful? I mean, your revenues went up 10%. Well, maybe they would have gone up 10% anyway. So it's really defining, well, what is it we're trying to change? Is it our closure rate? Is it more engagement with the executives, our customers? Is it we're more quickly moving things, throughout our CRM to close? So there's a number of the traditional KPIs like closure rates and those type of things, and obviously measuring the benefit for revenues. But the other part of it is, well, how confident are our people in talking to executives? Because I know plenty of people with their MBAs in finance, as a matter of fact. But if you were to say, "Oh, go talk to this marketing executive," they're like, "Oh my gosh, I've never done that before. I just don't know. Let me talk to a director." So there's a number of ways that can be
Right.
measured. But the bottom line is the top line. I mean, for example, one of our clients, they do outsourcing, and we got testimonials from this one group saying they build $4 to $6 billion in pipeline every year using FinListics, which I love, because when they say, "Oh, we got to reduce prices," I just wave this in front of them like, "Oh, I think we got to be raising prices, not lower." But yeah, this, some of the traditional sales metrics, but also, are there greater engagement, which they measure? Who did you talk to? What level were they at? What was the conversation about? Let me listen to the conversation.
Right, right, right. So you touched upon some of these things already, but let's say somebody listening, wants to take their organization through this transformation to get to better, insight-led selling. What challenges do you think leaders are going to face in adopting, this type of initiative in their organization?
There's a couple of them. First of all, the people that go to the President Club every year is going to say, "Why do I have to change?" And for this year, maybe you don't have to. But the way things are changing, right? It's kind of like, I mean, just look at AI as an example. I mean, how that people are leveraging that. But so part of it is with anything, it's the cultural. And part of that is like, why are we really doing this? Is this just the flavor of the day? Is that what this is? Oh, okay, flavor of the day. And our friends in learning development, check off the boxes. We put 200 people through this. check, check, check. It was a success. No, it's not. So, what one is going back to this North Star. Why are we doing this? Right. In fact, a friend of mine wrote this book, Ed Kugler. This guy's unbelievable. So he worked for all these Fortune 500 companies, and they were always, here we're gonna transform. And so he wrote this book called Loose Change, which when you think about it, you think about just change, like in your pocket or wherever you have change nowadays. I don't even know where. But his whole point was how many of these transformation efforts really had not been very well thought through. It's like just loose change. So one is why are we doing this? The other part is it cannot be left up to the seller to say, now go figure out how our solutions help increase revenues, how they increase profitability, how they better manage risk. So there has to be a group of people from product development, from sales, from marketing, solution engineers saying, okay, let's just pick a couple of common goals in our industry, our clients' industries, and how. Tell me how. Right. I learned this from Tom Shoei. He was the CFO at Walmart when I was doing some work there. Brilliant guy. And being a finance type, I'd run in, oh, Tom, if we could reduce inventory by one day, we could build this many stores, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, hey, too much coffee, stop. Tell me the how and then the how much. So part of it is companies being able to articulate how their solutions drive revenues, how their solutions help manage profitability. And here's the secret. I was working with one of our clients. I think they sold enterprise asset management solutions. And so we locked ourselves in the room, no consultants, right? And how does this help improve capacity utilization? How does this help improve unplanned downtime, right? And we came up with all these brilliant statements. And then the one guy goes, hey, here's a unique idea. Let's call up one of our customers and ask them why they buy it. And so they did. And I think this is what was it? An oil refinery, I can't remember. So why do you buy our solutions? And he goes, it helps me sleep at night. He goes, I don't want to call 2:00 in the morning saying, okay, the one line went down, you got to get down here, et cetera, et cetera. So, one, a lot of smart people talk, you come up with the how statement, but also get the customer involved. Like, why do you really buy from us? Right. So anyway, so that's another big part of it, is part of, addressing the cultural issues, but also having a lot of this work already done. Here's how our solutions can help improve. And then ultimately, by how much. But a lot of times people try to lead with the how much, which to customers are going, wait, you don't even know me yet. And you're telling me you can save me $2 million. How do you know that? Right? How, and then how much.
Hey everyone, just a quick break from the show to review the top 3 things that I talk to many founders about that are looking to maximize the valuation during an exit. 1, are your books in order? 2, is there enough growth left in the business for the acquirer? And number 3, what is your sizzle? What is that special sauce that's going to take many years for a competitor to recreate? If you have those 3, you're definitely going to be maximizing your valuation upon exit. Now back to the show. That's actually another piece of really good actionable advice. If somebody's contemplating implementing this type of new sales approach, that's a great way to start, right? Just call up your last 5 customers and just have that why conversation with them and have them give you the answers of how you can be approaching your next set of 5 customers.
Yeah, exactly. And another key part of this, and again, this is just common sense, is, then you got to get the sales leaders involved, because we've had clients that they go through the training, they learn how to use Client IQ, which is our sales intelligence platform. I have some of my executive coaches from, I mentioned, like AT&T, Procter and Gamble, et cetera, et cetera. They coach them on how do you talk to executives. And then you're like, well, wait a minute, why isn't there more usage? Why is there more adoption? And so I talked to them, right? We talked to them. They say, well, I love that class. I love the, executive coaches. But when I went back on our QBRs, my boss never once asked me about any of this. So the other really key part of this is that the sales leaders have got to be more sales coaches and reinforce this. In fact, one good friend of mine was an executive at a rather large technology company, and he told me for the QBRs, he started off not by asking, "Okay, we're supposed to close this deal this quarter. How close are we? When does it happen? How much is going to be?" The typical stuff. He would start off by saying, "Oh, okay, we know our client's goals. How much closer is that client to reaching those goals? What can we do to help them accelerate that?" So start off talking about the client, not about their technology. Now, eventually, because this guy, I think he was responsible for it's close to $1 billion. It's just some crazy number. Um, but yeah, they had to accomplish that. But his approach was more about make the client first, think like the client, and we'll naturally, because they had great technology, had great products, we'll make the sale, but we want to do it on their terms, or excuse me, in terms of what they're trying to get accomplished, not just because we got to close $500,000 this quarter.
So you speak about clients. One of your first clients was IBM, and you have a lot of very impressive logos on your website. How did you go about landing that first big account? So from an entrepreneurship perspective, what advice would you give startups to landing that first big major logo?
Well, that was pure luck, and that's this is really funny. This is a number of years ago. I was the UPS Scholar in Residence, and Oz Nelson was the CEO. What a wonderful person, Oz. And so he asked me to do like, okay, how come UPS succeeded? And companies like, I think the one was called REO Speedwagon. I think maybe that's where the group got the name. So I just kind of went through and, okay, Oz, here's why. Well, UPS has thrived. Here's why the other ones went out of business, and on and on. And Oz looked at me and goes, that was very helpful, Stephen, but you forgot one thing. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. He goes, luck, pure dumb luck. So yeah. How we landed IBM was this company I talked about earlier, that the one sales leader was in the class at Georgia Tech. So that his company is called Manugistics. And so they were partner with IBM. And so they were in this meeting one time, and one of their sales guys pulled out one of our reports, which I look at it now and just start laughing compared to what it looks like now. And IBM's like, well, what is that? And he goes, oh, this is a FinListics report. And so next thing I know, IBM's calling me. Is this Dr. Timme? Yeah. This is so-and-so at IBM. Oh, hi. We'd like to fly to Atlanta and talk to you about this product. Well, let me check my schedule. Let me check my calendar. So we met, and we started off with a very small group, because it's one part of consulting at IBM said, hey, we want to do this, right? And at big organizations, oh my gosh, I mean, it's just island hopping. That's what you're not going to, maybe, if you're Salesforce or Dynamics or something, but so we just worked with the one group and demonstrated value. Okay, look, they give us credit for helping them close this many deals, right? Their win rate went from whatever it was to something higher. So it was really just island hopping. And of course, within a lot of large organizations, you've got a lot of smart people, and they think they're smarter than everyone else. Well, salespeople would never get this. Only us smart value engineers could possibly do this. So we had to work with them, and they were very fortunate. At the same time, they were rolling out this program called Signature Selling Method, which is in the public domain, so I'm not giving away anything confidential. So it just so happened that what we were doing very, very much aligned with this signature selling method, which is very, very, very client, focused. So yeah, these large organizations, you just got to get in, land and expand, but make sure this is what we always do. All right, we're going to start working with this organization. How are we going to measure success? Right? It can't be, oh, I really enjoyed the platform. No, it has to be, oh, okay, how are we going to measure increased closure rate? How are we going to measure shortening, the sales cycle? How are we going to, because that way you can, instead of just having these testimonials, which are nice, you actually got some facts. You got some data-driven, insights. It says, hey, it worked for this group. Why wouldn't it work for your group, or it will work for your group?
We can't have a technology conversation these days without AI. And you briefly mentioned, AI prior. How much AI do you utilize in your actual solution, and how much AI education do you give your customers?
Yeah, so we're incorporating AI into our product, and what we talk about, it's trusted and verified. So if we've got financial information on Procter and Gamble, we know exactly where they came from. We know it's from their annual report. We can verify it, and then we also have another offering. It's called Industry Blueprints that says, okay, in this industry, you buy the different business functions. Here's their strategies. Here's their initiative. So we verify everything, right? So what we're doing, we're beginning to incorporate AI into the product that says, okay, only use what we know is on our side of the firewall, right? Only use our information, the financial data. Only use our information about goals and strategies. What we also have, Stephen, is that for each one of our clients, it's called a solution map. And basically what it does, it says, okay, this solution impacts what operational KPIs. So for example, we have one company and they really help with factory automation, production automation. So we'll say, okay, so here are the different KPIs: material cost, unplanned downtime, overhead. Here's how here's how your solutions impacted, and based upon experience with other customers, by how much. So what we've got are these solution maps that if someone says, oh, their goal is to increase margins, oh, which one of our solutions will help increase margins? So it's everything trusted and verified. And so what we're doing now is saying, okay, the client, let's say we know one of the goals is to improve profitability, which we know from our research, which one of your solutions will have the greatest impact on improving profitability. Oh, and by the way, here's how it's going to help. So that's how we're building AI, is really to make the sellers' lives easier. Just say, look, I just want the answer. And given my background as professor, right, we're very methodical. You first, okay, do this and then this and this, and then finally come up with the answer. And they're like, Stephen, that's great when you're at the university, but we just want the answer. Can you get on with it? I got to go do some selling.
Yeah, we need a fast track to the answer.
Yeah, just give me the answer and keep all this other research somewhere else. So we're doing that. Also, we're using it to help them find their goals and strategies, again, with the research that we've done, because I use AI every day. I use AI primarily for writing articles and, if I'm researching some different things. But, if you know if you have an idea what the answer should be, then you can look at it and go, oh, that sounds reasonable. But if you don't, because most sellers, they're not prompt engineers, they're not industry experts. So are you getting the right answer? It's getting better, but I've seen sometimes it comes back with stuff you're just like, this can't be right. So yeah, we're building into the product, but we're having it only look at our information. So it's what we call trusted, verified, and insightful.
Understood. So, but I'm assuming there is also AI education that needs to take place within a sales organization, because there's just so much additional information out there available on every salesperson's prospect, right? That they can find beneficial to use in the sales process. So, continuing education on the use of AI, I'm assuming, is a must-have for sales organizations.
It is. I'm going to give a plug to my good friend Donna McCurley, who has written over 200 AI sales agents, and then she works with organizations to say, okay, here's how you use AI as part of the process. And again, her name is Donna McCurley, great person, and just enjoy talking to her. But no, she's worked with a number of tech companies to help them come up with, well, which the prompts, because Stephen, that's one of the biggest challenges is, do you know what the prompt should be? I mean, what are you looking for? And when it gives you back an answer, what's the next prompt look like?
That's 100% the biggest challenge right now, because I think many people make the mistake of using ChatGPT or other AIs just like they would Google. If you use it the same exact way, you're going to get pretty much the same result. And it's all about the prompt engineering. And there's definitely a science behind how to engineer prompts better, so to get more insights and more valuable answers from the AIs. What tools have you seen used to actually get somebody that education? So if somebody is relatively new to AI, or they're like, wait a second, I use it the way you just described it, which is just like another search engine. Are there tools that you've seen out there that are better than others to help educate folks on what a good prompt is versus just a regular search term?
Stephen, I'd like to say I know, but I don't know. I mean, other than plugging my friend Donna McCurley, yeah, I haven't seen any. I know the education's out there, but having done this for 30 plus years, and a lot of the folks at my organization, FinListics, they're very very seasoned, so we just almost do it intuitively. But having asked questions like this for decades, but yeah, I don't know of any specific education like that.
Okay, no worries, no worries. So, in the time we have left, can you please share a little bit more about FinListics and your target customer size, length of implementation process, and what customers can expect when working with FinListics?
Yeah, so our ICP is in the enterprise technology space, and this can either be the solution provider, it can be someone like a Deloitte as an example, or Wipro. But you can go to our site and see we've got like the IBMs, the Rockwells, the Microsofts, the Googles, etc. And so the three challenges we help answer: everyone's trying to call higher, right? Buying groups are expanding. So I gotta go talk to some people. Maybe I've never talked to a marketing executive, but they're one of the stakeholders or influencers. And then the other piece is buying executives are saying, okay, that's great. Are we talking about something bigger than a bread box, smaller than a house? So the third thing we do is help them early on, really top of funnel, say, oh, by the way, if we could do for you like we've done for others, here's the potential financial benefit. It's not a promise because they're still going through the dating process. So those are the three challenges we address. And again, our ICP are primarily those in the tech space, although we do have from part of the legacy, but we do have like supply chain companies like DHL, FedEx, UPS, but mainly it's in the tech space. From a revenue perspective, it kind of, we like the bigger ones, right? I mean, you have more opportunities, but at the same time, one company we worked with, they start off like with 50 million in revenues. We looked them up; they were well funded, right? I forget how many series they'd gone through. So we're like, hey, we'll grow with them. So, depend on the situation. If it's Bob's consulting company, no, that's not an ICP. But, if someone it appears to have a good growth plan and something that's tangible in terms of delivering tangible, benefits to their clients, and then yeah, we'll engage with them. Now, you asked about how long it takes to implement. I mean, if someone called us today and said, "Hey, I've got 100 people, you know, how soon can you flip the switch?" We can do that in 30 minutes. The challenging part is, okay, what is the education that goes around that, right? So it's really getting that change of mindset. That's what takes so long, not our technology. That doesn't take very long at all. It's really getting people to change how they think about their customers. And that can be months, it can be years sometimes. It really just depends on how close they are to already having a customer first mindset.
Nope, I totally get it. Totally get it. So, Stephen, thank you so much for being on the show today. You've shared a lot of really great information and actionable insights on how sales organizations can be transformed and how they can become much more successful by taking an insight led sales approach versus a feature function type sales approach, which many do. What is the best way for folks to contact you if they're interested in getting more information?
Yeah, so a couple things. You can follow me on LinkedIn. The company is FinListics. My name on LinkedIn is Dr. Stephen Timme, but I tell people you don't have to call me doctor. I don't give shots. But anyway, So follow me on LinkedIn. Also, please go to our website, finlistics.com, and it's got the usual sales stuff, but we also have a lot of resources about how do you make this transformation, how do you measure the benefit of your solutions, et cetera. And then if you want to talk to one of our account execs, just info@FinListics. So Stephen, I'll send that to you. You can put it, by my name or whatever. But yeah, info@FinListics. But anyway, Stephen, thank you so much for having me on today. As you can tell, I get passionate about this.
No, thank you, Stephen, for being on the show. And thank you, everybody, for listening and tuning in to another episode of the Built to Finish podcast. If you've enjoyed this, please do like and share. It does help the show a lot. And I'm looking forward to speaking with you on the next episode. Thank you, everybody. That's a wrap for this episode of Built to Finish. Thank you for tuning in. For show notes and more details, head over to podcast.stephenpivnick.com. Special thank you to our sponsor, Acresis, offering tailored, high-impact advisory services that help founders get to their finish line with a strategic acquisition or majority investor recapitalization. Catch you next week.